1 is like the first really big milestone with your baby. So we're going to make this fun and interactive with all your questions as possible. But I know that I've had fun with introducing solids to my baby, so I hope that you guys find this fun and we take away the little bit of overwhelming fear factor that is introducing solids. Okay, so just a really quick disclaimer before we get started is that this is really general advice. Everything that we do at Little Bitesize is really general and for the general population. If your baby has any certain requirements or nutrition elements that they need looked after, just chat with your pediatrician or dietitian or speech pathologist and make sure that everything that you do is tailored to your child. Okay, so about Little Bitesize. Who are we? What do we do? Little Bitesize is a baby and toddler food company. Our goals at Little Bitesize is to create healthy, fresh and convenient meals delivered to your house. So really what we want to do is allow you to enjoy more time with your baby while knowing that what they're getting is the absolute best nutrition. And the way that we like to think about it is it's exactly as you would make it, except you don't have to. So it's really simple, single ingredient foods cooked the way that we know is really safe as an introduction to solids for your baby, all packaged up in a nice little bow and delivered to your house. So our goal is that you get to spend all of this quality time introducing solids to your baby and we're in the back just scrambling and cooking for you and delivering it to your house. So it's convenience without compromise, so you can be sure you're giving your child the best at every meal. And who am I? So my name is Jessica. I'm the dietitian and co-founder at Little Bitesize. I've been working as a dietitian for about 10 years. Most of what I have done and what I do is work in a public hospital. So I've worked with children in the burns unit, in oncology, I've worked with kidney disease, with diabetes, obesity. I've worked in a range of dietetic areas. And the reason that I tell you that is that time and time and time again, I see that food is the best medicine often. So we can often treat a lot of our conditions and diseases with food and the simplest ingredients, but more so food is the best prevention. So that's how we keep people out of hospital, is by having really good foundations, really good nutrition from the get-go. And that's what we're here to talk to you about today, and giving your baby the best possible start. So just quickly what we're going to go through, the when, how and why. So the guidelines on introducing solids and how do you do it. Setting you up for success by knowing what to expect. So setting the scene, it's daunting, it's overwhelming, and we just want to take all of that away and make sure that you have a lot of fun with it. The not so simple options and what's available in Australia. What to feed first. So that's a really big question that is obviously parents' first question, what to feed. The importance of iron and where that comes into the diet and how you get that. The stages of introducing solid foods and what all of that looks like and how you progress from one stage to the other. Allergens, that's a really big topic, so we'll go through that. Water and other fluids and anything you should be giving your baby and when to do that. And then we'll go through a couple of practical tips and tricks and what we have found worked for us and what others have found have worked for them. The other thing that I'll be mentioning, as I didn't mention in the beginning, is that I'm on this introducing solids journey with you guys. I have a very new baby and we have been introducing solids the last few months. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. Little Bitesize was my savior in the beginning and that's how I found out about it. But I want you to feel like I'm on this with you because I feel like I am. So, the why. The big little phrase that you might hear a lot is the first 1,000 days. So what is the first 1,000 days? That's a critical window from the day that your baby is conceived all the way through your pregnancy up until their second birthday. So that 1,000 days creates a platform where you can optimize the nutrition that you feed yourself as a pregnant person and then onto your baby through those first 2 years of life so that their brain development is optimized to its full extent. So that just includes giving yourself the best shot at nutrition in life. It's also been shown that those first 1,000 days are really critical in warding off chronic diseases. So things like diabetes and kidney failure and obesity, we can really shape who your baby is in those first 1,000 days and give them the best shot at health. Iron is a really big thing that we're going to talk about. So iron starts to drop off from breast milk or formula milk at about the 6-month mark. So we need to start introducing it in solid foods at that point. So that's something that we're going to talk about, how you can get it. And iron is a vitamin that transports oxygen around the body. It helps us to build and repair tissue. It's essential for us. Everybody needs iron. And so it's really important that we're aware of where to get it for our baby. And the other big thing is exposure. So exposing your baby to flavors and colors and textures and different foods and even allergens. So within that 6 to 12 month period of their life, how much can you expose them to, and how exciting is this new world for them? So it's all about moving within foods from puree to lumps to mash to finger foods onto family textured foods, all within that 6 to 12 month period. And that's the guidelines from the NHMRC, the National Health and Medical Research Council, which is where we kind of get our guiding principles from. So at some point in those 6 to 12 months, whenever is developmentally appropriate for your baby. Okay, so the when. This is a big one, and people kind of, they don't know when to start. The NHMRC guideline says that you introduce solids around 6 months and not before 4 months. So what's more personalized than going off those numbers is looking for these key sort of milestones. So does your baby have good head and neck control? So that's essential for them to start solids, because otherwise their esophagus is not supported and it's all crunched up. If the esophagus can be supported with good head and neck control, they can physically get the food down it. Can they sit upright when they're supported? Just a little hand on their back. Can they sit upright? Do they show an interest in food? So you and your partner might be at home and eating a meal. You might notice that your baby is tracking you. So they might watch you from the fork into your mouth. That means that they're a little bit interested in food and they're starting to pay attention and that they're getting a bit curious. So that's a good sign. And the other big physiological thing to look for is, have they lost their tongue thrust reflex? So the tongue thrust reflex is for babies to dispel toxins in the beginning, and it's a very newborn sort of reflex. As soon as that reflex is gone, that means that they could actually get food from the front of their mouth to the back of their mouth and then swallow it. But if they still had it, then they're just going to be spitting food and laughing in your face, essentially. So these are all big milestones to be looking for. And if all of those are kind of lining up, then you might think, okay, might be ready to start solids. The important thing is that because the NHMRC guides us to start at around 6 months, we really do want to start no later than 6 months with solids. If your baby is showing none of these signs by 6 months, or you're kind of watching a little bit before 6 months and you don't think they're going to get there, just chat to the doctor or chat to the pediatrician about what you need to do, because biologically and physiologically, that's when they should be starting to eat food and they need the nutrients. So there can be ways around it with your doctor if necessary. Okay, and how do you do it? So really, when you start solids, go about your normal day. Milk first. Milk is the #1 source of nutrition for your baby. So whether you're breastfeeding or formula feeding, do exactly as you did the day before or as you plan to do normally. Give them their full milk feed. Don't cut them off a minute or two before the end because you think that they're going to need space for their solids. Their solids won't take up that much space. Just give them the full milk feed and allow them to just enjoy as normal. We want their bellies to be full. We want them to get all of their vitamins and minerals and nutrients from that breast or formula milk so that they can focus on playing and interacting and doing what they normally do. Then we wait 30 to 60 minutes. When babies are on a milk feed and a solid feed, eventually they'll be broken up into 2 separate meal times. So from the get-go, we just want babies to know that they're separate eating occasions. So just wait 30 to 60 minutes. And then after that time has passed, it's time to introduce solids. So get a really well-washed spoon, whether it's silicone or plastic or one of the baby spoons. Or if you want to be feeding them off your finger, just make sure you're really, really washing your hands really well. Use that very clean utensil and put some puree on it, and then bring it to your baby's mouth. As simple as that. All you can do as the parent or as the caregiver is to offer that food. So you bring the puree to their mouth, you put it on their lips or put it on their tongue, put it close to them and see what they do. That's your job done. Your baby's job is to either take it or play with it or explore it or to look at it, to lick it and pat it. but all you can do is offer that food. So that's, you just offer a really small amount in the beginning. I'll go through what we have as our products and how much and what kinds of foods, but all you can do is offer that puree in the beginning. Something important is to trial all new foods in the first half of the day, so the morning usually. That is because, as unlikely as an allergic reaction is, someone might have an allergic reaction to any specific food. We want to make sure that we have all day to watch for that. So an allergic reaction might be a rash or hives or swelling of the tongue or anything unusual for them, any unusual behaviors. Very unlikely, but if it's going to happen, we prefer it to happen during the day, so that you can watch for it and get them to a doctor ASAP, rather than doing it at night and then they go to bed and you're not sure that allergic reaction is happening or not. And then you sit up all night worrying about it anyway. Fruit and veg is the least likely food to be an allergen, so to have an allergic reaction. And that's why we at Little Bitesize use fruit and veg in the beginning, because having an allergy to those foods is very uncommon. And that's why we say starting solids on those foods is usually the safest and most stress-free. The reason that we use puree is because it's the least likely for babies to choke on. So it's very simple for them to swallow down, even if they can't manipulate the whole thing down their throat. Okay, it's so important to remember this. We want you to have fun with introducing solids. These babies are here to explore and play and poke fun and make fun of all of us, and solids is no different. They just want to explore it and enjoy it. So in the very beginning, know that solids is not for nutrition. It's just for exposure. They're getting all that they need from breast milk or formula milk. So all you're doing by introducing solids is introducing them. They don't have to eat them. They don't have to swallow them. They might make a huge mess. That's all fine. So mess is actually a really important milestone for them. And it's a really hard thing for us as parents to accept over and over and over, that they're going to make such a mess, but try and embrace it if you can. The messier that they get, the more comfortable that means they're getting with their food. So if babies are getting a bit of pumpkin all over their face and squishing it on their hands or squishing it on their arms, that just means that they're learning how to trust that food. They're making sure that it doesn't feel icky, it doesn't burn their skin, it doesn't hurt them in any way. There's nothing to be scared of. So that next time that food comes near them, they might be more interested in eating it. So purees and solids in the beginning, it's going to be really messy. And as soon as they start to feed themselves, no holds barred. So it is super messy. My house looks like a crime scene every time I feed my baby, but I try and embrace it and do the best that I can to clean it up afterwards. It's really sensory for them. So these sensory skills that they're learning on how to pat and touch and smell and throw food, that's all part of their learning. And believe it or not, chewing and swallowing food is a learned behavior. So they're not just going to instinctively know how to do it. They have to figure it out and get really messy and use all of their sensory techniques before they can actually chew and swallow a food. Easier said than done, but be as relaxed as you can. So try and have fun with meal times. If you can sit down and eat with your baby, then they can watch you and try and mimic you. But the messier that they get, our natural reaction is to get upset. Try and be relaxed and laugh it off and smile at them, because then they know that that's all safe. It's okay for them to do these things, and the better chance you have of them actually eating it the following time. Okay. And what to feed first? This is where Little Bitesize comes in. As I said, the things that we like to introduce first are fruits and vegetables, and in a puree form. The reason that we've done that is because we know a lot of parents like to start feeding before 6 months' time, just because their babies are showing those key milestones of being ready. So if you're starting somewhere between 4 and 6 months, puree is really the safest type of food to begin with. It's just the lowest choking risk. At Little Bitesize, what we do is we have something called the First Bites range, and that is 27 ingredients of single fruits or vegetables, all cooked and pureed and packaged up into their own little package. So we send you out that entire package, and it's a 39-day plan of how you can introduce all of these fruits and vegetables. Sorry, I'm just being corrected. It's 24 fruits and vegetables, not 27. All of those fruits and vegetables are, you know, if it's zucchini or if it's broccoli, it's just zucchini in that bag. It's just broccoli in that bag. If there's nothing else in it, we give you 3 bags of each of those foods so that you can continue to expose your child over and over to that one particular fruit or veg and see how they like it. And we'll go through mixing and matching a little bit later, but that first bites pack is really the simplest way to get your baby to introduce them to solids. It's puree and it's single ingredient fruit or veg. So what we do is we send you out a calendar. So that calendar goes through which meal of the day we recommend that you introduce a particular food. So whether that's, you know, the morning meal, the midday meal, or the evening meal. And that's based on whether they've had it before. So if your baby's never had green beans before, we're not going to recommend that you introduce green beans at the dinner meal because of what we spoke about with allergens. So we go through in a stepwise way of how to introduce each individual ingredient over this 39-day plan, and how to continue to expose them over and over. It's a bit hard to see on that, but that's what one of the calendars looks like. So it's really fun, it's interactive, it's a bit colourful, and it also comes with an ebook. So it just explains everything on which day you introduce a particular food, and when you grade up from 1 meal a day to 2 meals a day to 3 meals a day. So all of that is really easily laid out in that calendar for you. We try and just take the guesswork out of it for you, because introducing solids to your baby it's full on enough, you know, like we've been there and we know that it's a lot of work, it's a lot of thought, it's a lot of care, and we want you to just be there and have fun with your baby, and we will do all the hard work behind the scenes. So that is all sent out to you with which fruits and vegetables. So there's sweet potato, there's broccoli, there's green beans, there's potato, there's parsnip, there's swede. The other thing that we talk about on that calendar is once your baby's been exposed to a food and you know that there's no reaction to that food and you know they've tolerated it quite well, there's no reason that you can't mix 2 together. So one day you might think, they've already had pear and they've already had sweet potato, and I know that they kind of like both of them or they tolerate both of them. I'm going to mix them together and see what they think of this combination. The world is your oyster. You get to choose all of that. You get to put these flavor combinations together based on how you like to eat. We're just there to guide you and give you a little bit of a platform. What we like to talk about is eating the rainbow. So as adults, what do we put on our plate? We like to put on colorful fruits and vegetables to make sure that we're getting phytonutrients and antioxidants from a beetroot, which is red, and then different vitamin C and vitamin B vitamins from broccoli or zucchini. Our babies are no different. We want to give them all of the vitamins and minerals that we can, and eating the rainbow is the easiest way to do that. So make it fun, make it interesting, make it exciting. And the more visual the food is for the baby, maybe they're more likely to eat it. So as fun as possible. And it makes the mess really fun if it's colourful. Okay, so there's a couple of little things that are quite important in introducing solids. The big thing is all your baby has known until now is breast milk or formula milk. So that has a very specific taste and colour and texture. Now we're introducing a whole range of new foods. They're going to be like, whoa, what is this? This is this green mash coming towards me. I've never had anything but white milk. Those foods might taste bland to us. Those fruits and vegetables might not have a lot of flavor, but to your baby, that is so many new flavors and such an explosion in their mouth. Seasonings are not necessary. So please don't add salt or pepper or seasonings or enhancers to any food that you're giving your new baby. They just don't need it. And in fact, the more seasonings and flavorings that you put in, the more likely you are to have a fussy eater, because we want to just make sure that they enjoy fruits and vegetables as they are, and untarnished. So if you can get them to eat them and enjoy them, you have a much better shot of them continuing to eat them through their life. If you're having a really hard time, mix it with breast milk or formula that they already know, and that can kind of neutralize the flavor a little bit for them, and then, you know, wean back a little bit so that you just give them the food after a few days. Babies reject food. They say no all the time. It's been shown that babies need to be offered food 10 to 20 times before they accept it sometimes. So that might not be true with one food and it might be true with another. That's okay. All you can do is just try and be relaxed, try and laugh it off, and come back to it in a few days' time. Try not to get worked up if they don't like broccoli and broccoli is your favorite food. It's okay. They'll come back to it and they will get there. You just have to be persistent and be really positive and make eating a really fun experience for them. Okay. Iron is, as I said, the NH and MRC recommends that we introduce iron from at least 6 months because breast milk and formula milk starts to be lacking in iron. Oh, goodness. Sorry. Oh, goodness. Okay. Iron is something that transports oxygen all the way through our body and helps us to build and repair tissues. It needs to be offered in these first foods, and that can be anywhere, after about 6 months. Iron-rich foods, I'll go through it in the next slide, what iron-rich foods are, but you can mix it through with any of the purees that we have in our Little Bitesize first packs. So as I said, if they've really tolerated pumpkin really well and you want to add an iron-rich food to it, by all means, go ahead. And it's actually quite important. And now I'm just going to go through what foods you can find iron in. So this goes through the main sources of iron. And the rule of thumb is that animal proteins are really the main source of iron. So red meat, whether it's beef or lamb, and poultry, so chicken and turkey are really strong sources of iron. Chickpeas are a beautiful source of iron. Shellfish, specifically oysters, have a lot of iron. Kale and spinach, both of which are in our First Bites pack, have a lot of iron, so you can really make sure that you're getting it if you're giving them that from our First Bites pack. Peanuts, tree nuts, beans and legumes, sesame, spirulina, tomato paste, potato, eggs, again, another animal product, are an excellent source of iron. Pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds. The other really big one is iron-fortified baby cereal. So that's not written on here, but that's really commercially available. And it's an easy thing that if you want to mix with any of our first foods, you can just give them the iron-enriched fortified baby cereal and be sure that they're getting iron that way. Some of these iron-rich foods that we've just been through are potential allergens. I'm going to go through allergens in a few slides' time, but they're nothing to be scared of, which is hard to accept, I know. So phases come and go. Some days your baby is going to love one food and then the next day they're absolutely going to hate it. That's just the nature of being a baby and testing you and challenging what the norm is. As I keep on saying, and I'm a broken record, just try and go with the flow, be a bit relaxed about it, as relaxed as you can be. And then hopefully the next time they will accept it. Have a plan B up your sleeve. So if you've got an avocado in the fridge, that's your plan B. If you might have a scrambled egg if they've already tolerated it. Have a plan B and try not to get stressed out about them rejecting a food because they will like it one day. I think these photos are so funny. Okay, fluids. Water is, while you're breastfeeding and formula feeding exclusively, water is not something that we offer our babies from about 6 months old. That's when we start to offer it. So the way to offer water is to boil and cool some water and then put it into a sippy cup for them. Babyology is actually going to send out some info on their best sippy cups and how to introduce water with a different cup. But all you need to know from a preparation perspective is that you need to boil it in a kettle or on the stove and then just cool it down like you would for their formula bottle. And then they can start to drink water. So that's important for them nutritionally, but also when they start solids, babies tend to become a little bit constipated just because it's a whole new world for them, their entire nutrition being flipped on its head. Water can really help to alleviate that constipation. Milks, so you continue to give your baby breast milk or formula milk as you normally would. Something important to know that once you introduced cow's milk, soy milk, rice milk, coconut, oat or almond milk, they are fine to have in your baby's diet and we want you to have them, but none of these milks should be your baby's main milk until at least 12 months old. So we really want to focus on the formula or breast milk that they're getting until at least 12 months old. Fat-reduced dairy is not something that is recommended until the baby's at least 2 years old. Those fat-soluble vitamins in dairy, they really need to be getting from full fat sources. Unpasteurized milks that you can get in supermarkets, they're just not safe for babies. So they can create a risk of infection, and babies are really susceptible to that. So steer away from unpasteurized milks, please. Okay, so what's on the supermarket shelves now is these baby food pouches. What they offer is baby food pouches are really convenient. They're shelf stable. You don't have to put them in the fridge. You can whack them in your bag and they're really convenient. They provide a lot of good nutrition, as it seems. They're marketed to mums. So all of those things are true, except there are a couple of downsides to them, and I just want to go through them so that you're aware of them. In order to get a baby food into a pouch, they have to cook it, whether it's chicken and barley and corn. They cook it and then they heat it up to about 100 degrees or more and hold it at that temperature for a few minutes. That's in order to make sure that all the bacteria is gone so that it can sit on that shelf for a few years without going bad. What happens in that process, unfortunately, is that all the vitamins and minerals are lost. So you no longer have vitamin C and B vitamins and your vitamin D, like they're all gone in that heat processing. So the vitamin-rich food from the chicken and barley and corn, it's just, you're just getting energy and protein after the heat treatment. They need to fill those bags, so there might be some cheap ingredients in there. You need to just double check. Each brand is very different. They also might have to put thickeners or stabilizers or preservatives in there, which is something that you personally might not want to be giving your baby. So just double check the label for all of those. The other thing is that babies come to solids only having breast milk or formula milk. So they know how to suck from either a bottle or a nipple. That's all they've ever known. So that skill of sucking is something that they're actually quite good at. So these pouches just continue to use that skill of sucking from that tiny little hole. What we're trying to do with solids is get them to eat from a spoon, and that's a completely different skill. So having them suck from a pouch all the time isn't going to help them to develop a new skill of eating as an adult would. So once they move on from purees, things that they're going to learn is how to chew and bite and manipulate food from the front of their mouth to the back of their mouth and from the left to the right. When they've got a pouch and puree food all the time, they're just not skills that they're able to develop. So real food on a spoon or on a fork, or, you know, as you progress to finger foods, those are skills that babies need. And so we just want to make sure they're not always eating from a pouch. The other thing is that because they're heated so high, the flavors are often gone. And so having bland, neutral tasting food all the time, you might get a fussy eater. So we really want to avoid that. And that's at Little Bitesize, that's why we try and give them untarnished, unblemished food. It's just the one ingredient with no flavorings and no enhancers, because we want them to enjoy the food. Okay. So what's after the first bites? After you've done the 39-day plan and it's all fruits and vegetables, where the hell do you go from there? So what's important to know is that in no particular order, you should introduce all the rest of the foods that are in your diet. You don't need to do 1 week doing just proteins and then 1 week just doing dairy. You can mix and match and do whatever suits you. But in no particular order, you should introduce dairy foods. I'll go through how to introduce dairy foods because they're an allergen. But that, good ones might be yogurt, ricotta cheese, it's nice and smooth. Cottage cheese, if you want to mush out the lumps and just make it a bit more smooth while they're still in those purees. And any dairy alternatives. So almond milk or oat milk or coconut milk, those might be included in your diet, so they should be in their diet. Eggs, meat, chicken, fish, legumes, if there's something that you want to be including, by all means, just introduce them as you will. And if your baby's still on puree, then cook them and then puree them down. Nuts, really important, but also, again, an allergen, so we'll go through that. And then continuing fruits and veggies. So just eating normal foods as you would. Is there anything that babies can't eat? So babies can eat 99% of what we can eat. There's just a couple of things to look out for. So honey should not be offered before 12 months because there's little spores on the outside of the honey containers that can contain botulism, which is a condition that we just do not want to risk with our babies. So avoid honey until at least 12 months. So the fish that I've listed below, sea perch, catfish, flake, marlin, swordfish, they're all fish that you would have been told to avoid in pregnancy as well because of the high mercury, similar for what your baby can tolerate. Prepackaged fruit juices, obviously sweet and delicious, but offer no nutritional benefit to your baby. So we really want your baby to be enjoying the whole fruit as they can, and just getting the sugar from that, but not to be rotting the teeth that they're working so hard to build through their gums. Whole nuts and popcorn kernels, just because of the size of them. The size of a nut is about the size of your baby's esophagus, so we really want to avoid anything getting stuck and a choking risk. If you're going to be offering nuts, then just, you can do it as a peanut butter or a nut milk, and make sure the peanut butters are really nice and smooth, but whole nuts are a choking risk. Raw or undercooked eggs or raw fish, same as when you're pregnant, it's just a very high infection risk. Salt is a big one. So your baby's little kidneys can't process salt too easily. So when you're cooking, try and limit the amount of salt that you're cooking with, or don't use it at all if you don't need to. Use any other natural herbs and spices when you're cooking. Pre-packaged baby foods, things that are targeted at parents, often have a lot of salt in them. So just make sure you're reading the back of the pack and not giving your baby too much salt. Tea, coffee, and caffeinated beverages. It sounds really obvious, but some people do like to give their babies tea or coffee, and that would be a personal choice. They don't need the caffeine, it just overstimulates their nervous system, but also the caffeine in any of these drinks, it really inhibits how the iron in the food is absorbed. So just best to steer clear of it. Okay, allergens. This is the big one, and I don't want you to be scared of allergens. They are something that we need to introduce carefully and slowly and watch our baby and really know our baby, but they're nothing to be scared of. So these are the 9 big allergens I've listed on the screen below. So we've got cow's milk and products of cow's milk, so yogurt and cheese, wheat, soy, peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish, normal fish, sesame, and eggs. So they're the things that the baby could be allergic to, same as any adult could be allergic to them. Research used to show us that we needed to wait until after babies were 1 to introduce these allergens, and now there's been overwhelming research to show that really before 12 months is the best time to introduce these allergens and see if there's an allergic reaction. And if there's not an allergic reaction, we really need to be including it twice a week to make sure that your babies don't develop an allergen to them. So trying these foods all before they're 12 months. How do you introduce an allergen? So start with 1/4 teaspoon of whatever the food is. So say you want to start with peanut butter, choose a really smooth peanut butter, not the crunchy one. Start with 1/4 teaspoon and put it on your baby's lips or tongue and see how they go. If they can swallow it and manipulate it and get it down their throat, watch them for any potential allergic reaction, whether it's a rash or hives or swelling or changing their behavior. If any of those occur, just get them to the doctor and have them checked out. If none of those things occur, which hopefully they won't, the next time you want to introduce it a couple of days later or the next day, start with 1/2 teaspoon. And then again, watch for any allergic reactions. No reactions, do a full teaspoon the next time. So really just grading up very, very slowly. And that's how we introduce all of these allergens. The only ones, as I said, peanut butter should be a really smooth paste or consistency. Eggs, just make sure they're really well cooked through. As I mentioned before, we don't want to give our babies raw egg. The other thing is a lot of people will talk about rubbing an allergen on a baby's skin or on their arm or something. That hasn't been proven to have any benefit, any signs of an allergic reaction. So if they're going to have an allergic reaction, that won't show it up. So don't be rubbing allergens on a baby's skin and thinking that they can then tolerate it. They've got to eat it. We send out an allergy checklist with our first foods. So you can see it there, but as soon as your baby's had one of those fruits or vegetables, you can just tick off if they've had no allergic reaction. And as I said, there's 3 pouches of each food. So you can just tick each time that there's no allergic reaction. You know that your baby's tolerating that food beautifully. Okay, and where to after purees? So you've done the 39 days and your baby is tolerating purees beautifully and eating some of it and throwing some of it on the floor and so throwing some of it at your face. At some point in that 6 to 12 month period, you want to move from puree to mash to lumps to finger food and then on to family food. So these are the types of foods that we have in our Second Bites range. If you go on our website, you'll see our Second Bites range. So again, they're flash frozen produce, which are a little bit lumpy, Some of them have lumps, a little bit of puree, and a little bit of finger food. So you can choose to serve it how you wish. So you defrost it, and if you want to puree the whole thing down, great. If you want to serve it as it is and give your baby a little bit of finger food, once you think they're ready for it developmentally, great. So you serve it how you want to. These are pre-portioned into packs, 125 grams, I don't remember, 120 grams. So we've got the Green Goddess, Golden Glow, and Radiant Root. So they're just different fruits and vegetables and grains in those packs, and gives your baby exposure to a wider variety of foods. And they come with 6 meals per pack. And it also comes with an ebook, as does the first food. So you can really be guided through in a really slow and gentle pace. So that's what they look like, that little pack there. It's a frozen pack, and then you just defrost it, and it's got lots of different textures in it. That one looks like it has kale and pumpkin and barley and maybe some black sesame seeds or something. So you could mush that all down into a puree if you want, or you can serve it as is once your baby's ready for it. This is a bit of a list of websites if you need more information, but this is how you can contact us. So any of those ways you can get in touch with us, and we'll be sure to get back to you as soon as we can.